Hi everyone, and welcome back to our beautiful community here. So tell me a little bit, how are you? What are you doing? What are you up to these days? Are you having fun? Do you spend your time with your family? So tell me a little bit about these days. What are you doing? So let's quickly start with today's class. If you remember, in the previous video, we started with the simple past tense. If you remember, I have told you that in English we have three tenses. The first one and the most important one is the present tense. We use it if we are talking about actions that are happening right now, right? If we go back in time, we have the simple past tense, and that's what did we start with in the previous video. And if you go further, you're going to talk about the future tense. Now, in the previous video, we started talking about the simple past tense, and I have told you that we use the simple past tense to talk about finished actions in the past. If we are talking about actions that started and finished in the past, so we need to use the simple past tense. In English, we have two kinds of verbs. In the simple past tense, we have what we call the regular verbs. These verbs, if you remember, they accept the ed to change the verb into the past tense. So for example, if I want to change the verb into the past tense, sometimes we need to add d, like for example, lived. Sometimes we can add ed, like for example, worked. Sometimes we add ied, just like studied. So these are the regular verbs. And the irregular verbs, we're going to talk about them later. Now, in this class, we're going to continue talking about the simple past tense, and we're going to start talking about how do we change the sentence into the negative form using the simple past tense. In the simple past tense, it's super easy to change the sentence into the negative form because we only add one thing to the sentence no matter what was the subject. If you remember, in the simple present tense, if I want to change the sentence into the negative form, I need to look at the subject, right? Then we decide whether to add doesn't or don't, according to the subject. In the simple past tense, no matter what was the subject, we only add didn't to change the sentence into the negative form. So to change the sentence into the negative form in the simple past tense, we only add didn't, then the base form of the verb. So let's take a look at the sentences, at the previous sentences. For example, I worked very hard yesterday. To change this sentence into the negative form, we need to add didn't because the sentence is in the past tense. So the sentence will be, I didn't work very hard yesterday. So we add didn't, then the base form of the verb, which is verb 1. What does that mean? Verb 1 without any adding to the verb. So we need to cross out the ed. So I didn't work very hard yesterday. We baked a cake for my sister's birthday last week. To change the sentence into the negative form, we need to add didn't because the sentence is in the past. So the sentence will be, we didn't bake. So we need to cross out the d because after didn't, we need to have the base form of the verb. So we didn't bake a cake for my sister's birthday last week. I carried the boxes with my dad yesterday. To change the sentence into the negative form, we add didn't because the sentence is in the simple past tense. So the sentence will be, I didn't carry. How do we change the verb carried? How do we change it into the base form? We need to cross out the IED and we need to return the Y, because the base form of the verb carried is carry. So you need to pay attention that after didn't, we must have the base form of the verb. So this is how do we change the sentence into the negative form. We need to add didn't, then the base form of the verb. Now, in order to make the yes or no questions, if you remember, in English we have two kinds of questions. The first one, which we were talking about also in the simple present tense, which is the yes or no questions. Yes or no questions, the answer for these questions usually is, sometimes we can answer by yes or no. So how do we make the yes or no questions in the past tense? Also, it's super easy. We only start the question with did in the past. No matter what is the subject, we need to start the yes or no question with did. So we start with did, then the subject, no matter what is the subject that we are using, then the base form of the verb. So, for example, did you study yesterday? So we need to start the question with did, then the subject, then the base form of the verb. For example, did she cook yesterday? Did he travel last year? Did they, for example, swim yesterday? So we start the yes or no question with did, then the subject, then the base form of the verb. Now let's take a look at these sentences. For example, the first sentence that we have is I hurried to the bus station yesterday, for example. This sentence is in the past tense. So first of all, if I want to change this sentence into the negative form, in the past tense, what do we add? We need to add didn't. So I didn't. What about the verb? We need to change the verb into the base form of the verb. That means that we need to cross out the IED and we need to add Y. So I didn't hurry to the bus station yesterday. What about the yes or no question? How do we make the yes or no question from this sentence? We need to start with did. Did, then the subject, I'm talking to you, so I need to ask you. Did you, then the base form of the verb. Did you hurry to the bus station? You can answer by yes. I hurried to the bus station yesterday, or the negative form, which is no, I didn't hurry to the bus station yesterday. You need to make sure that if you are answering with no, so you need to answer with the negative form, which is no, I didn't hurry to the bus station. For example, we stayed at home last night. To change the sentence into the negative form, we need to add didn't. We didn't, the base form of the verb. Pay attention. We didn't stay at home last night. To make the yes or no question, we need to start the question with did. Did, then the subject that I'm asking, you or they. Did you stay at home last night? Yes, we did. Or yes, we stayed, the affirmative form. Or no, we didn't stay at home last night. They studied a very important lesson. To change the sentence into the negative form, we need to add didn't. They didn't study an important lesson. For example, yesterday. Did, if I want to make the yes or no question, we need to start with did, then the subject, then the base form of the verb. Did they study an important lesson? The answer should be yes or no. Yes, they studied in the past, or no, they, the negative form, didn't study. We played outside. To the negative form, we didn't play outside, the base form. Yes or no question, did they play or did you play outside? Yes, we played, or no, we didn't play outside. So the last example, we watched a movie yesterday. We didn't watch a movie. Did you watch a movie yesterday? Yes, we watched, or no, we didn't watch. So in order to make the yes or no question in the simple past tense, we need to start with did, then the subject, then the base form of the verb. Let's take a look at this question. The news last night. Do we say didn't watched, or didn't watch, or did watched? The negative form, it should be didn't watch. Now, the last thing that we're going to talk about is the second form of the questions in English, which is the WH questions in English. The WH questions in English, they are the words that, or the question words that start with the WH letters. The first WH question is who. When do we use who? We use who to ask about a person. For example, who is this? Okay, who is your best friend? You need to answer by a name of a person. What? We use it to ask about a thing. What is this? For example, so you need to answer by the name of the thing. Where? We use it to ask about a place. For example, where are you? At home, at the park, for example. So you need to answer by a name of a place. When? We use it to ask about the time. When do you usually wake up? So you need to answer by time. And the last WH question, which is why, we need to use it to ask about a reason. Why? For example, why are you angry? Why are you sad, for example? So these are the WH questions that usually we use to ask about a person, a thing, a place, a time, and a reason. Now, how do we form the WH questions in the past tense? We need to start the WH questions by the question word, which is where, when, what, why, these, the question words. Then we need to use the auxiliary verb, which is did. So did, it must be there in the question. Then the subject, no matter what was the subject, then the base form of the verb. So for example, where, we need to start with the question word, which is where, when, what, why. Then did, the auxiliary verb. Where did, then the subject, you, she, he, it, or any name. Where did you work, for example, last year? For example, where did she study last year? Why did she leave early yesterday? So you need to start the question with the question word, which is one of the WH questions. Then you need to use the auxiliary verb, which is did. Okay, it must be there in the question. Then you need to use any subject that you're asking about, she, he, it, I, you, we, they. Then the base form of the verb, then the complement of the question. Please start practicing the simple past tense. Thank you so much. Stay tuned. See you soon.